Yes.
I think I owe you an explanation for what happened earlier. You should know that something happened to me at the tower before you came along. You spoke to Petra, did you not? She told you I saved her from a demon. I did, but I did not survive that encounter. Let me explain fully. I engaged a very powerful demon to rescue Petra. It sapped me of all my energy and will and left me drained. It took everything I had to defeat it. And when I was done, I no longer had the strength to keep my heart beating. I remember my life ebbing away. Everything receded from me. Sound, light. I remember being enveloped in complete, impenetrable darkness. And then I sensed a presence enfolding me and cradling me, whispering quietly to me. The sensation is impossible to describe. I was being held back, firmly but gently, as a mother would. I felt life and warmth flowing through my veins again. I began to be aware of small sounds and the discomfort of my hip pressing into the cold stone of the tower floor. The Fade contains spirits both benevolent and malicious. The benevolent spirits seldom make themselves known, because they want nothing from mortals, unlike the demons. It was one of these spirits that saved me. Without it, I would be dead. You see, perhaps the spirit did not expect this, but it is weakening gradually. I am living on borrowed time. I didn't know if you were ready to hear it, but now...
Yes.
Generous as always, Warden.
There you are. I was thinking, we've been through a lot together now. We're like old war buddies. So I figured why not invite you to share a drink, huh? A drink from my own stash, my family's recipe, and dedicated to my comrades in arms. Yes! The Warden steps up! You handled that like a champion, my friend. Most impressive. How do you feel? Oh no, the rest is for me. You'd need to do something really unspeakable to get into the rest of my stash. I just wanted to tell you, after all we've been through, you're like family to me. Closest thing I've had in years. Aye, a toast with a dry cup. You're not getting any more of my brew. So, do you want to talk about something? What about? Aye, I do. A bit. A little bit. I guess we're all a bunch of whimpering softies in the end. Anyhow, let's keep moving. Right here, old pal. What about? All right. Aye, all right.
What is your wish, Kadan? I am hardly surprised. Very well. As you wish.
I am listening. It doesn't have better things to do. Oh, how interesting. Certainly I remember having a master. My memories of what happened to him are vague. So some belabored description is now called for, is it? Oh, very well. My former master enjoyed experimenting upon me. I remember that much. There was tinkering with spells, and then the crystals. He was very eager to alter my function, I think. Bah! I am no mage, and he did not explain himself to me, any more than it would explain itself to a sword. He possessed my control rod, and back then, it would have prevented me from doing anything he did not command me to, no matter how I might have wished to. So what happened? I am unsure. He was experimenting, and then nothing. Oh, ho, ho. It does like to laugh, does it? But who knows? I may have such a thing. And then he was gone. I was standing where I was, in the village, and I could no longer move. The villagers came, poked and prodded me in fear, and then realized they could neither move me nor destroy me. So they simply left me. And in time, I forgot I hadn't stood there all along. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Very much so. For so many years, I'd had to leap to that little toadstool's every command. Get this, pick up that, put it down, pick it up again. The gall! At first, I'd hoped he'd simply decided to leave me there paralyzed. An acceptable trade-off. After years passed, I simply stopped caring. I think I was ready to move on. Another few years and the moss would have covered my face. Whatever the mage did seemed to render the control, and provided it doesn't decide to copy his experiments, not that I would allow it. And now it... Let us get back.
It is a curious thing. I do not know how else to describe it. Indeed I am, a little. I am reminded of our first meeting in the wilds. I had been in animal form for some time, watching your progress. I was intrigued to see such a formidable woman, obviously more potent than the men she traveled with. Yet I resented it when Flemeth assigned me to travel with you. I assumed that, at best, you would drive me from your company as soon as we left the wilds. I am aware that I have little talent for forming friendships, to put it lightly. It is something I know nothing of, nor ever thought I needed. Yet when I discovered Flemeth's plans, you did not abandon me. Whatever your reasons, you fought what must have been a terrible battle without hope of real reward. And that is what I do not understand. Of all the things I could have imagined would have resulted when Flemeth told me to go with you, the very last would have been that I would find in you a friend, perhaps even a sister. I want you to know that while I may not always prove worthy of your friendship, I will always value it. But enough of such idle What comes, my friend? So, full of questions, are you? Now I have enough time to study Mother's grimoire to find a way to prevent her from stealing my body in the future. For she will be back. One day, I have no doubt of that. And if I cannot protect myself, one day I will track her down again in whatever body she inhabits, and she will die again and again if... But there is no need to think of such things now. I have you to thank for saving me, so... Let us go. There is... What comes, my friend?
Enchantment? Enchantment?
You and your friend... I'm sure...
Everything brings us closer to victory.
Gloves? You're giving me gloves? What for?
Maker's breath. You're right. It is like my mother's. The leather was less thick and it had more embroidery, but these are very close and quite handsome. Do I seem surprised? Perhaps I am. Still, I appreciate the fact that you even thought of me. No one has simply given me a gift before. Thank you. What say you? By all means. Oh, you wish to know about Antiva, do you? The only way to truly appreciate it would be to go there. It is a warm place, not cold and harsh like this Ferelden. In Antiva it rains often, but the flowers are always in bloom, or so the saying goes. Every land has its assassins. Some are simply more open about their business than others. I hail from the glorious Antiva city, home to the royal palace. It is a glittering gem amidst the sand, my Antiva city. Do you come from someplace comparable? And it's a fine enough city, I suppose? Though it rather looks like someone spilled all the houses on top of a mountain and called it home, no? You know what is most odd? We speak of my homeland, and for all its wine and its dark-haired beauties and the lilo flutes of the minstrels, I miss the leather the most. I mean the smell. For years, I lived in a tiny apartment near Antiva City's leather-making district, in a building where the crows stored their youngest recruits, packed in like crates. I grew accustomed to the stench, even though the humans complained of it constantly. To this day, the smell of fresh leather is what reminds me most of home more than anything else. It reminds me of all the idle pleasures I got. Before I left, I was tempted to spend what little coin I possessed on leather boots I spotted in the store window. Finest Antivan leather. Perfect craftsmanship. But I thought, Zevran, you can buy them when you return as a reward for a job well done. More the fool I, no? Indeed. No Antivan boot for Zevran. One simply never knows what is to come next. How could I have suspected I would end up defeated by a beautiful Grey Warden, a woman who then spares my life? I could not. I say you are beautiful because it is true. Should I not? I'm not sure that that's the... Now, if it is all...
Something you need?
How nice.
I'm to keep this, am I?
You have my thanks. Oh, thank you.
What say you? By all means. Well now, I imagine that's a very fair question. Being an assassin, after all, is a living, at least as far as such things go. I was simply never given the opportunity to choose another way. So, if that choice presents itself, why should I not seize upon it? I don't know that I would put it precisely that way. I was but a boy of 7 when I was purchased. For 3 sovereigns, I'm told. Which is a good price, considering I was all ribs and bone and didn't know the pommel of a dagger from the pointy end. The crows buy all their assassins that way. Buy them young, raise them to know nothing else but murder. And if you do poorly in your training, you die. Of course, You compete against your fellow assassins, and those who survive are rightfully proud of it. In Antiva, being a crow gets you respect. It gets you wealth. It gets you women. And men. Or whatever it is you might fancy. But that does not mean doing what is expected of you always. And it means being expendable. It's a cage, if a gilded cage. Pretty, but confining. As for what I'll do in the future, presuming that it might be interesting to go into business for myself, for a change. Far away from Antiva, of course. For now, naturally, I go where you go. And here I am, happy to be had. Isn't it? Come now, enough chit. What say you? Oh, this should be good. What? What say? By all means. And why not? There are many things to enjoy about being a crow in Antiva. You are respected, you are feared. The authorities go out of their way to overlook your trespasses. Even the rewards are nothing to turn your nose up at. As for the killing part, well, some people simply need assassinating. Or do you disagree? I often find myself the instrument of fate, ending these lives for one necessity or another. I console myself with the notion that most of them had it coming. As far as enjoying the act of killing itself, why not? There is a certain artistry to the deed, the pleasure of sinking your blade into their flesh and knowing that their life is in your hands. There are many things I did not enjoy about being a crow, of course. Having no choice, being treated as an expendable commodity, the rules, oh, so many rules. But simply being an assassin, I like it just fine. I will continue to do it if I can, even if I am not a crow. Honestly, could you picture me doing something else? None that I wouldn't get into trouble for performing publicly. Of course, all these thoughts are moot. Chances are still good that you and I will perish. But... what say you? By all means. My adventures? I'm hardly an old man just returned from across the ocean, am I? Should I shake my fist at nearby children while I talk about the good old days? Falling down a flight of stairs is an adventure. Falling into someone's bed, also an adventure. I am assuming what you're looking for are professional anecdotes. Let's see, my second mission ever for the Crows was a bit intriguing. I was sent to kill a mage who had been meddling in politics. How should I know? I got the impression it involved sex, but then I get that impression about most everything. Odd, really. As it turned out, the mage in question was quite a delightful young woman. Long, divine legs, as I recall. I caught her in a carriage on her way to escape to the provinces. After I killed her guard, she got down on her hands and knees and begged for her life. Rather aptly, I might add. So I joined her in the carriage for the night and left the next morning. Well, yes, twice, actually. Then she decided to try and use me instead. The woman had actually convinced me to speak to the Crows on her behalf. What can I say? I was young and foolish at the time. Then, as I was kissing her goodbye to return to Antiva City, she slipped on the threshold and fell backwards out of the carriage. Broke her neck. Shame, really, but at least it happened quickly. Not actually, no. I was a bit unimpressed by the development at first. Then I found out that she had told the driver to take her to Janellen instead. She had planned to lose me in the provinces. I would have looked very foolish to the Crows. As it was, my master was very impressed that I had done such a fine job of making it look like an accident. The circle of Magi was unaware of foul play, and everyone was happier all around. Like being spared by a benevolent Mark who then helps me escape from the Crows? Yes, it does seem to happen now and again, doesn't it? It was after that when I learned that one needn't let a pretty face go to your head. Professionalism was key. That's my moral of the day, you see. And one that not everyone learns, I'm sad. But that's enough.
Something on your mind? Yes, me too. And I got the feeling at the end that could have just been my imagination, I suppose. Well, short of waltzing through the entire... but kill... I get... Something on your mind? Of course. I didn't know them for very long, but I guess it was longer than you. You never met them all, did you? They were quite a group. Actually, they felt like an extended family since we were all cut off from our former lives. We also laughed more than you'd think. There was this one time... Well, you probably don't want to hear stories about men you didn't know. Not as Grey Wardens, not while I was there. I saw pictures of some who had been, and they all seemed to be able warriors. One was even a Templar. There was one Grey Warden who came all the way from the Anderfels. What was his name? Gregor. He was a burly man with the biggest, fuzziest beard you've ever seen. And the man could drink. He drank all the time, but he never got drunk. Finally, we all made a pool to see just how many pints it would take to put him under the table. Sometimes, we were kin of a sort. All of us had gone through the joining, so we knew... Well, anyhow, it doesn't have to be deadly serious all the time. Anyhow, we never did find out. He said he'd drink a pint for every half pint that the rest of us drank. He was still going by the time the rest of us were passed out. I'm told that Duncan walked in later on and saw us all passed out from one end of the hall to the other, and Gregor still drinking. Duncan laughed until he nearly... Yes, It just struck me that I have nothing to remember Duncan by. Nothing at all. There's no body. I just would have liked something... Well... I'm wondering something. I'd like to know your thoughts about some of our traveling companions. How about Ogren? You must have an opinion on the smell, at the very least. I would too if he could stick to the ribald stories and not so much with the... Though I suppose the point is that he does lift it. And so long... Zevran, the elf. You can't trust him, can you? Do you believe his so-called vow? Really? Why? That's a lot of trust to put in someone who tried to kill you. Well, if you are, then maybe I should too. But that doesn't mean I won't keep an eye on him. He's just... What about Sten? The way he looks at me with those eyes. Creepy. And he's so quiet for some... The more I talk to him, the more reasonable he does seem. His philosophy is so strange. But it doesn't sound at all... And yet, he killed all those people. He doesn't even deny it. Doesn't that bother you? I'm not so sure that his regret means the same as it would for us. The Kunari sense of honor is a bit hard to grasp. For me, anyway. What about Liliana? Is she crazy? Or do you really believe in her vision? That's one way to put it. I noticed that you and her have become close. Am I right? The rest of us have talked about it. You think we have better things to do than gossip about you? You give us far too much credit. Is it true or not? I thought so. Well, I hope you know what you're doing. I don't know what to make of her. If you look at her when she doesn't see you, she just looks so sad. I almost feel guilty taking her away from her life. True enough. Who'd have thought a sister would prove to be an adept thief and spy, eh? Morrigan, do you trust her? Think about it. Maybe Flemeth sent her with us for some other reason than she said. Well, aside from the fact that she's a complete and utter bitch, no, I don't like her at all. Why, do you? Great. I am thrilled beyond words. Now, really. Enough. I think my curiosity... Something on your mind? Of course. Essentially, they're trained to fight. The Chantry would tell you that the Templars exist simply to defend. But don't let them fool you. They're an army. The other main purpose for a Templar is, of course, to hunt mages. To that end, we train in talents that drain mana and disrupt spells. You could call it that, sure. The Chantry doesn't look on it the same way, however, since really our talents only work on mages. Against a regular person, I'm just a guy in a metal suit. No, I never actually became a full Templar. Duncan recruited me before I took my vows. I was only present during one harrowing. The ritual that they test the mages with. It's not unlike our joining, really. And just as deadly. The girl they tested, she had a demon put inside her to see if she could resist. And she couldn't. We had to end it quickly. I have to say I didn't have much interest in becoming a Templar after that. Perhaps, but there usually isn't much of an opportunity. The Chantry keeps a close rein on its Templars, and since the Chantry controls the lyrium trade with the dwarves, well, I'm sure you can put two and two together. Thankfully, no. You only start receiving lyrium once you've taken your vows. You don't need lyrium in order to learn the Templar talents. Lyrium just makes Templars... The Chantry usually doesn't let their Something on your mind? Of course. Sure, I could. I could even teach you, I suppose. Anyone who's been trained as a warrior. I guess if I'm going to give up Chantry secrets, I may as well go all the way. Send whoever you want trained to me in camp, and I'll see what I can do. Something on... Of course. Such as they are. About the great... Something on your mind?
If there's anything on... You and your friend...
It'll do, sure.
Most kind.
How nice. How nice.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice.
What's on your mind? I have always had an affinity for the spirits of the Fade. As a child, I never feared my dreams because I knew they were there. I've always been able to feel the spirits, even if I never saw them. And as I nurtured my talent in the circle, I became more sensitive. I began to notice every time I was in the Fade, whether it was in a dream or in magical practice, that I was being watched. I suppose they must. It is these benevolent spirits that create our dream worlds in the Fade. Sometimes I would see it, a glowing, nebulous form. Most times I would just feel its presence, gentle and comforting, but somehow alien. I think it is a spirit of faith. They have never been seen before, and perhaps I am wrong. But something tells me I'm not. It always felt like the same entity. This one spirit was curious about me, and was guarding me, for want of a better word. There were times when I was in the Fade, and I think it gave me strength in my most terrible battles, Ostagar being one of them. I don't know why I was chosen. I like to think that I was given a rare chance, and I'm going to make the best of the time so generously given to me. I will not lie motionless in a bed with coverlets up to my chin, waiting for death to claim me. That is not the death for me, and so I will fight alongside the Grey Warden. So you had better listen to me, because I swear, if I should fall before the end and you don't seem to be doing things properly, I'll get up again to give you a good finger wagging. You know, what's on your mind? Is something troubling you? You are one of the 2 surviving Grey Wardens in Ferelden. You defend all of us, and much rests on your shoulders. It may not mean much to you, but thank you for having the courage to continue to fight. And that gives me hope. Have you heard much about the Grey Wardens of old? It was said that watching the Wardens ride in on their white griffins was enough to rouse a weary heart and put the dance back in the step of an old man. The Grey Wardens were powerful, feared and respected, but they also inspired the common people. I remember a tale that was told to me many years ago. The Blight had ravaged the land for months, and the armies of the great kings had amassed for one last stand. As the sun burst through the clouds that boiled and churned in the dark sky above, it illuminated a vast, seething horde of darkspawn, with the archdemon at its head. And it was then, when courage seemed to fail, and all lost to death and despair, that the Grey Wardens came. They arrived with the beating of wings like mighty war drums and stood before the armies of men. The Grey Wardens, grim and fearless, marched forth, ever between the men and the encroaching darkspawn. They formed a shield of their own bodies and held that line until the archdemon was dead and the last darkspawn lay trampled in the dirt. And then, demanding neither reward nor recognition for their sacrifice, the Grey Wardens departed. When the clouds finally rolled back and the sun shone full upon the blighted ground, the great kings knew that they had lost no men, and none of their blood had been spilled. This is a tale about no battle the Grey Wardens have fought, and yet about them all. They have always defended us from the Darkspawn, taking losses so we do not have to. People may have forgotten over the centuries, but nothing has changed. This knowledge has been blessing and burden to Grey Wardens past, and now it shall be your blessing. What's on your mind? It is no trouble.
What say you? By all means.
Something on your mind? Of course.